The Detroit Lions have just made headlines once again, and this time, the reason involves two of the team's most talked about figures, Jameson Williams and Aiden Hutchinson. Amidst their winning streak that has galvanized fans, a series of internal developments has begun to draw attention from the press and NFL insiders. On the one hand, Williams has become the center of discussion about his performance and behavior off the field. On the other, Hutchinson, the local legend and defensive cornerstone, may be about to sign one of the biggest contract extensions in recent team history. And all of this is happening now, with the Lions riding a 4-game winning streak and about to face the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. But what's really behind these moves? Before I tell you the hottest details, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because what comes next promises to change the course of the Lions season. The controversy began when Jameson Williams, the wide receiver chosen to be the Detroit offense's biggest deep threat, went another streak without reaching the 100-yard mark. Since Week 2 against the Bears, the player has failed to repeat his dominant performance, and that was enough for some fans to begin questioning his commitment and even his social media behavior. Reporter Corey Woods brought up comments about the former Alabama player's behavior and revealed that, internally, the mood isn't one of concern, but rather of analysis. Woods also shared a surprising statement from Lions defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard, who came to Williams' defense in an unexpected way, provoking even his most staunch critics. When asked about the receiver's decline in production, Shepard was blunt. "I hope the average fan appreciates 34 points per game." The answer sounded like a message to fans. Williams may not be racking up yards, but he's helping the offense in ways many don't realize. And it's true. Williams' work goes beyond statistics. Even when he's not the primary target, he's an essential piece in John Morton's offensive system, especially with his blocking and ability to spread the field. His speed forces defenses to adjust, freeing up space for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta to shine. Williams is a threat on any route, and just being on the field changes the behavior of opposing defenses. Still, the pressure to perform is immense, especially on a team that aims high. And the curious thing is that internally, the talk is of complete confidence in the player. Williams is expected to have explosive games again, especially now against the Chiefs, an opponent who often forces the Lions to look for big plays. Meanwhile, on the other side of the roster, news emerges that could redefine the future of the franchise. Aiden Hutchinson, the face of the defense and a local hero, is at the center of talks about a possible multi-million-dollar contract extension. According to ESPN reporter Jeremy Fowler, Hutchinson seems destined to receive a new deal, and the most impressive thing is that it could happen before the season. While nothing is official yet, sources confirm that negotiations are already underway. And the pay? Everything indicates that the figure will be astronomical. After Micah Parsons boosted the edge rusher market by signing a $46.5 million per year contract with the Packers, Hutchinson is expected to become the second highest paid player at the position, surpassing names like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. And there's plenty of reason for that. Since being drafted in 2022 with the second overall pick, Hutchinson has been an unstoppable force. In his sophomore season, he recorded 11.5 sacks and was named to the Pro Bowl. The following year, when everything looked like he would have an even more dominant campaign, a broken leg forced him out of action after just 5 games. But now, recovered and more motivated than ever, Hutchinson is back with a vengeance. He has 5 sacks in 2025, with at least 1 in each of the last 4 games. It's this kind of consistency that makes him a cornerstone of the defense and a major reason for the Lions' current success. General Manager Brad Holmes has made it clear that he wants to keep Hutchinson in Detroit for the long haul, but he also acknowledges that it will be a significant investment. The franchise has already spent heavily on significant extensions in recent off-seasons and is now preparing for one of the most expensive deals in its history. And if everything comes to fruition, it'll be further proof that the Lions are fully committed to the future, retaining their biggest stars and building a solid foundation to compete in Super Bowls for years to come. With Jameson Williams facing criticism but being defended within the locker room, and Aiden Hutchinson on his way to becoming one of the highest paid players in the NFL, the Detroit Lions are showing signs of a turning point. They're a mature, confident team that understands the value of its players, even when the public isn't yet aware of everything that's happening behind the scenes. And with the huge duel against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs just around the corner, The atmosphere in Detroit is one of pure anticipation. Because if there's one team that can surprise the league this season, it's the Detroit Lions.
Terrion Arnold, one of the team's top defensive prospects and a centerpiece of the secondary, is out indefinitely, joining DJ Reed and Khalil Dorsey on the injured list. This means the Lions have lost 3 of their 4 starting cornerbacks right in the middle of a campaign that still promises to be a strong contender in the NFC. And to make matters worse, Dan Campbell confirmed to the press that the team is already looking at potential replacements, and some of the names being considered will leave fans in shock. Before I tell you who these players are who could land in Detroit at any moment, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because what's happening behind the scenes at the Lions right now is simply unbelievable. This situation is, without exaggeration, a true nightmare for the Lions' defensive end. Terrion Arnold, who had been the standout among the rookies, was showing exactly why he was one of the draft's most highly touted picks. His chemistry with DJ Reed had been providing security for a secondary that had long been a weak point. Now, with both out, Coach Dan Campbell must contend with a combination of makeshift veterans and newly arrived reinforcements. Behind Amik Robertson, Rock Ya-Sin, and Avonte Maddox, the defensive core is beginning to thin dangerously. The immediate solution was to turn to hastily added players like Trey Flowers and Nick Whiteside, but the truth is, Detroit needs more. Someone who can step in and contribute immediately without requiring weeks of acclimation. And this is where the list of potential reinforcements begins to heat up. The first name to appear is Cameron Dantzler, a veteran who has already proven himself in the NFL. A former Minnesota Vikings player, Dantzler stands 6 feet 2 with a good wingspan and considerable experience. He has played 37 games and 3 interceptions in his career, in addition to being named to the PFWFA All-Rookie team in 2020. He's seen as a solid option, someone who knows the division well and could provide immediate stability to the defensive system. However, there's one detail that's concerning. Dantzler hasn't played a regular season game since 2023, and some say his temperament has already caused backroom noise at other teams. Even so, with desperation knocking at the door, his name could be one of the first to receive serious consideration. But if fans want something truly explosive, the name circulating behind the scenes in Allen Park is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Yes, that's right, the player who controversially left Detroit and was recently released by the Houston Texans amid an unfriendly atmosphere. It would be a dramatic return and undoubtedly the kind of move that would put the Lions back in the NFL spotlight. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a versatile, energetic defender with experience in Aaron Glenn's system who could, in theory, immediately bolster the defense, especially if the team decides to move Brian Branch to more cornerback. The question is, after how it all ended, would the locker room welcome his return? Still, circumstances can force unexpected decisions. With so many simultaneous absences, Detroit finds itself in a situation where it's at a premium. And Dan Campbell knows there's no room for error. The next few days promise to be intense, with management analyzing veterans available on the market, testing players in training, and trying to find a solution that won't compromise the defense, which has been one of the team's mainstays thus far. The urgency is enormous, and fans are already beginning to speculate. Could a bold move by Brad Holmes be on the horizon, like a last-minute trade before the season finale? What's clear is that the Lions are at a decisive moment. If they can find the right replacement, they can keep alive their hopes of a solid campaign. But if injuries continue to plague the squad, the dream of going far could quickly turn to frustration. The fans, already accustomed to ups and downs, now expect an answer, and fast. And if there's one thing Dan Campbell has shown throughout his time in Detroit, it's that he doesn't shy away from a fight. So get ready. The next few hours may bring news. Until the next update.